Ready?
Yes.
Welcome to Homemaker Chic Podcast. We are here today again and every Monday to rescue this beautiful art of homemaking from the daily grind. It can be kind of grindy. So last week, we just sat down as friends and talked with you. We hadn't just kind of sat down and shot the breeze in quite a while. And our conversation went from language lessons to stress. I don't know how those two things are connected. Yeah. And we started, it just kind of gradually or naturally progressed into a podcast that we each had recently listened to, and then a subsequent book that we're reading. And it's turned into, I think, a really good conversation. So we're going to try to pick up.
We got so many messages. Like, what's the podcast? What's the podcast?
Right.
So we're going to, I was like, just wait till Monday.
Just mean to leave you hanging, but yeah.
But every once in a while, I think the Lord is just so tender in the way that he brings things. And I've said it before, pretty dense. So he's like, hey, how about this thing? Hey, remember how we were working on this thing? Hey, here it is again. Here it is. It's in a different form.
It's in a different form. Sometimes the form matters. And so what happened was, okay, so here's the podcast. The podcast is it's my new addiction. So it's called Diary of a CEO. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's very, very popular. So I'm a little late to the game. I've been listening for like the last 4 or 5 months or whatever. I think it's kind of geared towards entrepreneurs and business owners, but there's a lot of interviews with physicians and a lot of interviews with like motivational people or people with compelling stories. And so I was scrolling and I saw this, whatever the headline when it intrigued me. And usually they're very clickbaity. Whatever they call the podcast or whatever the thumbnail is, it's very, very clickbaity. So you won't always get, that's not always like the crux of that episode. So it's very interesting. Sometimes you dive into a show and you're like, wow, this isn't at all what I thought it was going to be about. The interview was with a gentleman named Mo Gawat, and he has written a book called Unstressable. And clearly Stephen Bartlett, the host, and Mo are good friends. So it's a long form podcast, excellent conversation. And that's kind of what started this whole thing, because sometimes I'll listen to something. Shay and I are always sending each other things, obviously, just like you in the audience. I know you're sending reels and memes and funny things and things you enjoy to your best friend. We do the same. And I was on my morning walk listening to this show, and about 3 big bullet points in, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to share this with her. And then I thought, just calm down. You're always like, you got to listen to this. And then about 3 more points later, I'm like, that's it. I'm sending this to her. This is so good. Yeah. And then about an hour later, she just types back in all caps, this podcast.
Yeah. I was undone when I listened to it. And I don't know if it was just right thing, right time. I don't know if it was just a vulnerable, moment, but it was incredibly impactful for me. And look, I know that I am not an isolated case when it comes to a stressed, strung out homemaker. When all it takes is shoes that you trip over, that you've asked not to be put there 12 times, and all of a sudden, that's it. Yeah. It unleashes the beast. Pieces come out of you that you wish you could put back in the next day.
Right.
The amount that it takes for the cup to overflow can be very, very small. And if that's you, then stay tuned, because that's kind of exactly what it got at. Here's what blew my mind initially from this podcast is Mo talked about, maybe I shared this last week. Mo talked about his tipping point when he realized, I'm actually stressed. Yeah. And I was like, Mo, I've been at that point for 10 years. I don't know.
And it was really inconsequential, wasn't it? And that's what got his attention. Do you remember what it was?
His wife had planned this beautiful gift or day for their family. They were going to take like a day trip somewhere, and his daughter was so excited. And he was trying to finish up some work before they left. And she was just his daughter was just like at him, like, how are we going to do this? As kids do, because she's excited. and he just snapped at her. He said, I don't even remember what he said because it was
Mm.
so inconsequential. Maybe
Yeah.
he's not telling the full truth of how that went down, because I
Mhm.
listened to it thinking, that's me and most every single mom I know all the
Mhm.
time. So, but that was his point of saying to himself, look, if you don't have that enough capacity to account for that, I'm thinking about it, and maybe this will be helpful. Think about it like a water glass, okay? And all the things that are required of you, things you need to do, tasks that you have on your day, your job, your responsibilities, those are all things that fill the glass. That's water in the
Mhm.
glass, okay? Now, when you have a sick kid and they vomit all over the couch, okay, that's more water in that glass. Now that's
Harsh
something
chunks.
else for
Right.
mom
Right.
to have to account for. Okay, I
Yeah.
got to clean up the kid, put him in the shower, clean up the couch, get a bowl, what medicine, da da da, right? That's going to take something from you. So I think
Mhm.
about that as added responsibility, added water in that glass. Okay. If that glass is filled to the brim all day, every day, then what that means is something that could be inconsequential spills over. There's
Mhm.
genuinely just no room for it to go, regardless of how big or how small it is. It's at capacity.
Mhm.
There's no way for you to psychobabble talk yourself through that. It's
Right.
not possible. It's not physically possible.
Yeah.
And I think that is typically, and this is kind of what Mo gets at, that's why you're stressed. You don't have any space for anything else to exist.
Mhm.
So every time the water spills over, you're left cleaning up a mess.
Right.
Moms.
Well, and I think, if you're going to look at what we try to, like obviously they were talking more, well, business and personal, but like when we take something on the show here and we're trying to like distill it through this homemaker filter, right? I mean, the homemaker has so much going on. Her life is so multifaceted. Because, so many are working full time and homemaking and caring or watching parents age and caring for children, or like it's really easy for that cup to just live at full. It's really easy for it to be filled like by a fire hose by 9 a.m. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into this.
Okay, before we do, let's say thank you to season whatever it is sponsor, Dry Farm Wines.
7,000. I think it's 21. Season 21.
Season 7,000.
Right.
Dry Farm Wines, you guys cannot say enough good things about this company. They've been with us since, I think, season 1 or season 2, a very long time. And they continually to be just a shining example of what can be possible in the food world when a lot of care is put towards something. So remember, they go out, Todd, we've had Todd on the podcast before. He goes out all over the world and finds these really artisanal made wines. They're small batch, no added yeast, no added sugar, no added crazy filters or colorants or preservatives or any of the things. 72 ingredients can be added to your wine bottle without anything being put on the label. Can you imagine if wine bottles actually had to have labels on it?
That would
And
be
you
super
saw what, red
unsexy.
number 40 or whatever? Sugar.
Purple dye,
Purple dye.
fish
Egg
bladder,
yolk.
right? Egg yolk. Yeah, that would be.
But even worse, the chemicals that they can add without saying something. So you can visit dryfarmwines.com/homemaker chic. Use that link because you'll get an extra bottle in your first order. And I want you just to try. Try the 3-bottle set. You can try reds or whites or bubbly. Sometimes they have specialty wines like orange wines. They do such a good job at sourcing these wines from natural producers around the world. And to me, they're just completely worth celebrating. I actually have a special one to share with you today, one that was so good that I'm going to ask them to send me a case of it.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
So this is one you'll see a lot. This is an Italian wine called Archetipo. And they have a bunch of different ones. So they all have Greek names. I'm not even gonna. This one's Osophos. I don't know if that's correct. All of their wines have Greek Greek names there, but they probably have like, I don't know, 6 or 8 that circulate through the dry farm bottles or
Mm.
the dry farm boxes.
Hmm.
But this one is a Greco Bianco and it's so good.
What was your like?
It's so
What did
good.
you love about it?
Well, this is one of those red wines that you're actually supposed to drink a little bit chilled.
Okay, so
So,
nice for dog days of summer.
exactly, we haven't been
Yeah.
drinking a ton of red wine.
Hmm.
And what's funny is I picked this up and I opened it. I drank a little bit and I actually, I swear this is true. I said to Stu, I feel like this would be really good, just slightly chilled. So
Mm.
we put it in the fridge and then we drank it. We both enjoyed it so much because it was just, you know how sometimes red wines could just make you immediately thirsty?
Tannin. You get a little
It's,
starchy, cottony in your mouth, and
yeah,
yeah.
it's
Hmm.
just, this one was refreshing,
Mm.
but flavorful and so wonderful. And then I turned the bottle over and I was like, son of a gun.
I know what I'm doing.
LIB. Surf between 45 and 50 degrees. Anyway, check this out. Check this particular producer out. You can request certain bottles. They do really wonderful VIP treatment. So just have fun with it, you guys. Have fun with it. It's fall. Go try some. dryfarmwines.com/homemaker chic. Link below the show. Or, of course, there's a link over on Instagram as well. But pour a glass and sit down with a pen and paper as we talk through this subject today, because look, this is my little sheet that I made when I was listening to the podcast. For those of you watching on
I've got
YouTube,
6 pages here.
there you go.
All right.
Okay, so I don't want to just get watered down in the homemaker's stressed. Yeah, okay, fine. But I and they did talk in the context of business a lot, but a lot of our homemakers listening have jobs,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
their husband has a job, or they're
Well,
running a family business, or they're moving and shaking, man.
right. And I think, everybody likes to be affirmed in their thought process. So once I started realizing, oh my gosh, this guy is saying what we say, that we glorify stress.
We
And on the
glorify
show,
it.
on our show, we say like glorifying the hot mess syndrome, hot mess mom, messy bun, hot mess homemaker, going, 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 and I'm thinking, he's saying the same thing. This is like, thank you. Everybody likes to be like affirmed. I just went through and I took, 6 or 7 bullet points I thought we could just kind of go through on the show. Or I don't know what you have in mind today.
Okay, sure. Hit me with one.
Well, one of the first things he says early on in the interview is he uses the word gatekeeper. And we have talked about that too, that as homemakers, we're the gatekeepers of our home. We decide what sort of vibe the home has. We set the pace for the home. We decide what sort of foods come into the home, what sort of entertainment comes in the home. We pick out the children's clothing, or whatever. Like we're the gatekeeper. But he was talking about that, personally, that you are your own gatekeeper and you choose what you let in and what you don't let in. And for me, that was a really good reminder. Just like my gosh, what is the word I'm looking for? My agency, like how much of this is self-inflicted?
It's a lot, you guys. And when I was going through this thinking, one of the other pieces that kind of ties into this is he talks about what are the noises and nuisances that you've let in past the gate that maybe you shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it made sense in a season, but it no longer makes sense. What are those noises and nuisances? Genuinely, and he's just like, you got to kill him. Kill him.
Yeah.
Think about them like viral pathways that like got past the immune system. Okay. They need to be killed. And genuinely, I would encourage you right now to pause the podcast and with your pen and paper, write down what are those noises and nuisances that have made it past the gate into your home that are kind of creating, as Angela has this thing about bacon frying. When bacon's frying, it like sends her over the edge. The sound
That's a real
of it.
thing, though. That's a real thing in my brain. It's a condition.
Okay.
It's got a name.
That's fine.
What?
Do you? But
I'm doomed.
My point is like,
said?
No, I said do you, not you're doomed.
You said you're doomed. I'm like, yeah,
No.
pretty much.
No, my point is like, what are those kind of background noises
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that maybe you're not even aware of? So let me give you one of mine. I don't
Okay.
want to like get too personal here because yikes, but email checking. Email checking is a noise and nuisance that I didn't gatekeep in the way that I should have. So obviously, I'm an entrepreneur. My work is very important. It's how our family makes money. And so, in my mind, I was justified in checking these emails to make sure that things didn't fall through the cracks, etc.
Hmm.
I wrote down though, this is a noise because what happens is I'll be cooking dinner. I look at the email. Oh, this YouTube video audio issue. Okay, now I got to stop making dinner. I got to go
Hmm.
fix this, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But most of the time, it's just noise. So I thought, let's just run an experiment and see. I'm going to give myself 10 minutes in the morning to check my email. I can respond to any important emails that need to be accounted for in that moment. I'm actually sitting at a computer because I don't know, what am I, Gen whatever? I have to answer emails
Yeah.
on a computer. I can't do it on my phone. Okay, fine. Then I give myself 10 minutes at the end of the day. Did anything come in crazy important that I need to deal with tonight? And I'll tell you, I've been doing this for about 2.5 weeks now. And in 2.5 weeks, one important email has come in.
Yeah. And so he on the show, everybody wants to feel important. Everybody has the need to feel important. And on this particular episode, he talks a lot about that the stress and us keeping busy with things like checking our text messages every 5 minutes or checking our emails once an hour or whatever sort of habit we do. It's not necessary. And we do it because there's some part of us that cannot just sit with ourselves and we want to feel important. If I check my email every hour, I'm important. Even if I'm sifting through junk or whatever, it triggers us to feel special. When the downside of that is you're occupying your mind with something that it does not need to be occupied with for that many times a day. And when you do that, then you're limiting space for the goodness and richness and creativity that your mind has to offer you. And you're just filling it with twaddle and subsequent stress.
And that
So,
creativity and thoughtfulness and attentiveness does not come when there's too much noise. You cannot hear it.
right. And it's like, I suppose it's like the same reason I don't look at the news ever. Because if you do, like, then you turn around to your kid and you snap at them because it's the reason I got off Facebook like 6 years ago. Like, I didn't just want to see that all the time because I'm not equipped to handle all that information all day long.
Right.
And so I think with something like checking your email or whatever, like there is a time and a place to do things. Like this is not, I think at night as I'm falling asleep, and I'm really training myself to say to myself at night, this is not the time to entertain those thoughts. This is sleeping time. This is not how you unwind anymore. I've been doing this for weeks now. Like, we're not going to run through our day and run through tomorrow and think about the grocery list and next week's menu. We're not doing that as we fall asleep. And that's not, those are not appropriate thoughts for falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like the Bible says, like you can't gain anything
Yeah.
from it. There's nothing
Yeah.
gained by me entertaining those thoughts as I go to sleep. There's nothing gained from you just sifting through garbage emails all day long just to find that one nugget.
So one of the other noises to kill that I wrote on my personal list was fear of the future. And look, there in Mo's book, the Unstressable book, especially the parts that Alice does, there is severe psychobabble. For the Christian, you're just like, ugh, Like we're talking about the same thing. We're using different terminology and we
Mm-hmm.
have much different goals and words that we would use to explain that same thing, which is fine. There's still plenty to be gleaned.
Mm-hmm.
But um, but for the Christian, this fear of the future, they would say, well, look, you literally can't relive yesterday. So done.
Mm-hmm.
Unproductive to think about that unless you want to learn something from it, which you probably already did. Tomorrow you have no idea what's going to happen. And so you kind of only have today. All right. So let's stop worrying. How often when you lay to go to bed, do you think about horrible things that could happen to your family? Or just run through all different kinds of scenarios of what if this? What if this? What if this? Okay, what if? So this fear of the future became a noise in my world that I had to kill. And for me, that just looked like praying, just a lot of praying for the future. And my friend Kate always used to say, God doesn't give you grace for your imagination. You know, like you can run a hypothetical about your beach trip and how your kid's going to be attacked by a shark. And now you're going to have to learn how to do a tourniquet. Okay.
Shay and her sharks.
But
Honestly.
that's not the moment yet.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to kill some of the noises might be a little bit simpler. Like maybe you need to kill an activity on your calendar and just say, I got to step down from this for a season. This is just a little bit too noisy for me right now. Maybe I need to take an hour and unsubscribe to all those emails that are filling up my inbox.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to hire a housekeeper to help me with keeping up of some of the noise of the house. Some of them are going to be more emotional, like fear of a future or regret, regret living and dwelling in the past of things that we've done that we shouldn't have done. That can really sour
Mm-hmm.
your home, your mood, and that becomes a noise. One of the interesting things in that culture of the glorification of busy that really hit me, and I touched on this last week, is this is a weakness. This is you not being the person that you should be and using the fact that you're busy and important and needed and just doing it so right that you're just so stressed out.
Yeah.
That's like a severe character flaw.
Mm-hmm. When the lie is, I I'm amazing. I can do all this.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
you
the
know, that
like, yeah,
he
keep going.
he does reference just and acknowledge the stress of today's world. And I do think it's really important to be cognizant of that. It is if you feel stressed because you wake up and you have a to-do list a mile long and 10 errands to run and meals to make and lunches to pack and laundry to do, and oh, you forgot to move the laundry from the washer to the dryer, and then so it's starting to get stinky or whatever, and you're out of cat litter, or like those things are stressful. And we we take on all these little things because they're normal in our world. And we don't acknowledge that they're stressful. And we just keep taking them on, underestimating what tomorrow's needs for ourself or our family or our home are going to be. And they just start stacking up. I mean, like, I just feel like it needs to be acknowledged that the barrage of technology and the pace we keep and everything that we're exposed to, all the different stories from around the world, like, it is a stressful life.
Mm-hmm. And we're
I
being
just don't think
asked to
we give,
control ourselves
yeah.
with the most addictive device that's ever been created
Mm-hmm.
that promises us everything, and it preys on our weaknesses. So it's like you were talking about before, the things that we will fill that time with and get distracted by, it keeps us from doing the really good things
Mm-hmm.
and the really difficult things because it's so much easier. And they know, like, we're going to be drawn to what's easy. We're going to be drawn to what's quick. We're going to be drawn to what's fast, what's flashy, what's colorful, what's new, what's newsworthy. This is human nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are struggling with some of this stuff, like, that's because you've been preyed upon. I mean, it's like Vegas with there's no clocks in a casino.
Mm-hmm.
There's no natural light in a casino. There's colors and lights and flash and gold and all these empty promises. Okay. But the house always wins. Like, these are things that we know. And yet we're being asked to control ourselves around them all the time. It's a hard situation. So, like what you're pointing at, if you feel stressed, that's because there were stresses before, but they were perhaps more natural stresses, like, are we going to have food this week?
Mm-hmm.
This is a different generation of stress.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that list of nuisances and noises is really important for people to actually make any kind of progress with their stress. Did you write stuff like that down? Did you have particular things that because he has you write them down, and then he says, like, and basically, what's the solution? Like, don't just list all the problems.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, I guess, acknowledging, sure. But then what? How do you kill it?
Yeah. No, I didn't do that yet. I started on the book last week, and all my notes right now are from when I listened to the show, because he said like 6 or 7 things that I just thought I really needed to sit with for quite a while.
I think the podcast episode was really the highlights of the book.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at why is it so hard for us to make these changes? Stress, he says it's an addiction.
Yeah.
So that busyness and that filling the void, and you're addicted to it. Think about what happens when you start removing things from your life. There is a feeling of, well, now what?
Oh, totally. And
okay.
Fear of judgment.
Yeah.
When you go and meet with your girlfriends and they're like, "Oh, how's it been going for you?" I mean, it's cultural capital. Say, "Oh my gosh, we have been so busy."
Yeah, well,
Billy's in
but that's like
soccer
an
and Stu's
addiction. You get
volunteering
together
for
with your
this.
friends, and
Totally.
you're the non-drinker in the group. Like, think about that. Like, think about
if you say to your friends, "Oh, we've had such a great week. It's just been quiet and content."
Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's the O'Douls, man.
That's the O'Douls. That's funny. So, my sister said something to me the other day. She doesn't know I'm going to share this.
Hi, Chelsea.
But hi, Charles. We were talking about she's coming to Paris with me, and like, I like to just go in Paris, and that's fine for me. Like, I'm not making apologies for that. And I told her, I'm like, you can do what you want to do, but like, I try to like blood from a turnip every day I'm there, But she said, this is going to be, and I'm paraphrasing, so I'm hoping I'm not misquoting her, but it got me. This is going to be a little bit of an adjustment for me, because in the afternoons we shut down. And her kids are smaller, and she has a side hustle, but it's not like a main thing as far as career woman. But she's like, we're quiet in the afternoon. She naps, the kids nap, she takes care of things. It's quiet. They shut down.
Hush house.
Hush. I mean, I was like, oh. Not
teach us your ways.
Not, for Paris. Like, I don't want to do that in Paris, but I just was like, well, that sounds like a luxury I don't have. And our lives are very different, especially financially, right? As far as my responsibilities versus hers. But I didn't want to use that as an excuse. I said, wait a minute. Whatever she just said got your attention for some reason. What is going on here? It just was like a hook statement, In the
Okay, so
afternoons, we shut down. I don't know what
so
to do
Mo
with that
talked.
yet, like, but it got me. I heard it, and I heard it in light of, or in the shadow of, or whatever, this, how much have I wrote down, okay, my notes say, I make choices that stress me out because I am caught up in a cycle that keeps speeding up. And I think too much of myself. And, I'm a go-getter. The joke in the family is all I do is win. If I do something I'm really proud of or whatever, I tease that, that song, all I do is win. Like we joke about that. But there is some part of me that thinks I can keep going, I can go faster, I can do more, which is like fine. I always want to be growing, but still, like, to what cost? And does today's Angela think about tomorrow's Angela's capacity? Like, to what end? Um, what
So
what
Mo
what
talked
ideas do
about.
I want to protect, and what things are good of that, and then what really needs to be let go of that?
Mhm. Yeah. So Mo talked about the exercise of sitting down and writing, what does a successful day or week look like? And I think that's really important
Mm-hmm.
because, I kind of am going about this from two sides. One's the personal side, the mom, the homemaker,
Right.
and one's the business side.
Right.
Okay. So, for me, I had to do some thinking about this. This is kind of both, I guess, but like a kept and executed balanced schedule. So when realistic Shay sits down to make a schedule for the week,
Mm-hmm.
she needs to be wise.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you an example when I was not wise just recently.
Okay.
We spent a weekend away at family camp. Stuart and I are doing Christie's special kind of diet health stuff this summer. So
Uh-huh.
I had to make our food to take with us,
Mm-hmm.
plus bedding and pillows and everything and clothes for 6 people. So I released a YouTube video on Friday and had to do the newsletter. And of course, there was corresponding problems, etc. So by the time I got to the end of Friday, I was like, you idiot. Like when you sat down on Monday to plan out your schedule, your work should have been done Thursday morning because you know what it was going to take you to prepare for a weekend away.
Mm-hmm.
You have to gas up the car and get ice for the cooler, all these kinds of things. Like you have to be realistic when you're planning out your schedule.
Would that have been possible for
Yeah.
you to do it by Thursday?
Yeah. It might have meant I had to not do something or, like Stu does extra music lessons sometimes. Maybe he didn't do one of those and he spent that hour and a half instead finishing up the video so it could have been uploaded. I think we have to be realistic. And I think even for people who are go-getters, you're a human.
Yeah.
Like you're a human. And so I know the temptation is to fill every 15. Oh, I could study French for 15 minutes and then I could
Right.
work out for 17 and a half and then I could pee and then I could make the chicken salad for lunch. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that person. I am that person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But we don't keep that pace forever. Like you're going to get sick, a kid's going to barf, like things are going to happen and our
Mm-hmm.
schedule has to account for some of that extra stuff.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in like working through all this, last week I sat down on Monday and I made a list of what I needed to get done for the week. And I think one of my problems is like my expectations are unrealistic.
Right.
So I thought this list was really doable. I wrote this down. I was like, okay, this keeps Parisian Farm Girl in business. This is appropriate. This isn't anything extravagant. Like you're not implementing a new idea or anything like that. This is just,
Yeah.
a good spinning of the plates. This is what needs to happen. This was Monday's list. Okay. Friday, I was still working on it.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go.
And so I did not, something's off.
Yeah.
It's off.
Your
it's not, I'm not taking into account, what means the most to me is my family. Like I'm not weaving the two things together. So again, like you said, we're having kind of two conversations. You and I are entrepreneurs and, homemakers. But it just, even I will do the same thing even with projects around the house, with things that need to get done around the house. Like it's an unrealistic expectation, and I just don't know, like, where is that? That's coming from a lot of different places. It's coming from a type A personality. It's coming from someone who loves a sense of accomplishment. It's coming from someone who lives in this world and sees accomplishment everywhere she looks. You know, we just live in a world where we see the end result of everything.
Okay, so that plays to that. What does a successful week look like? Let's take a break and say thank you to our sponsors, and then I want to come back and I want to talk about that ceiling thing.
Yes,
and remind me about a mortgage, and then I'll know what you're talking about. Okay, Tups and Co. Thank you for being a sponsor of Homemaker Chic podcast. You can visit tupsandco.com and use the code HMC10 for 10% off. If you're unfamiliar with Tups and Co., which you shouldn't be if you're a Homemaker Chic listener, this is a family-run company. Emily's based in Alabama. She created this company because her daughter was suffering with eczema, sensitive to perfumes and preservatives and all the chemicals that they can put in skincare. And so she began making tallow balm from grass-fed tallow that she could use to soothe her daughter's skin. Now she uses all kinds of simple and wholesome ingredients like cold-pressed olive oil. She makes this skincare and makeup with real ingredients. And I challenged you to do this last week, and I think you should do it still if you haven't. Visit tupsandco.com and go to a product and look at the ingredients. There are plenty of skincare and makeup brands out there that will never show you what's in their skincare. There's a reason they tuck it inside the label that you got to like scratch off with your fingernail.
Oh yeah, the little
pull out
accordion.
And then it's in Chinese, so you can't read it anyway. So this is your source for skincare and makeup without any synthetic chemicals, no toxins, no fillers, no artificial colors or artificial fragrances. We did an interview with Emily a few years ago now. We should have her back on. She was talking about preservatives. And the preservatives, particularly that are in products with aqua, water listed as their first ingredient. So go back and listen to that if you're curious. But the great news is there's a fantastic alternative at tupsandco.com with code HMC10 for 10% off. You can shop all the French clay soaps and glow serums, foundations, powders, mascaras, eyeshadows, lipsticks, all kinds of wonderful products. So make sure you use that code HMC10 for 10% off.
Fabulous. Next, we're talking about stress. You have to sleep, and you should sleep beautifully.
Oh, yes.
You got to sleep. Oh my gosh, sleep. Visit AmericanBlossomLinens.com and use this code SummerChic20 for 20% off. I know what's going on in your home. You're gearing up for the school year. Even if you don't have kids in school, there is just something cathartic and whatever about fall. You want to get all your ducks in a row, get things ready. You're mentally preparing even for the holidays, and tidiness and organization and freshness are so important. Thinking about your linen closet, enjoy 20% off of these beautiful, beautiful linens made by American Blossom. Sheets, duvets, beautiful herringbone blankets, crib blankets, baby blankets, so many wonderful things. Towels, washcloths, all made in America, from the growing of the cotton to the box that lands on your front door. They've been in business for over 125 years, making linens for 5-star quality hotels. So this is the level of quality. We want you to invest once. And that's the idea around American Blossom. It's better, not more. So visit AmericanBlossomLinens.com, use the code SummerChic20, and enjoy their beautiful products. They come with a 2-year happiness guarantee, which I think is So
You're gonna love
wonderful.
them.
I'll take it.
Okay, so these are exercises you need to do. These are exercises you need to. You listening to this is not going to help you be less stressed. Okay. I think that nuisances and noise list is really important. What are the noises? And just keep a notebook with you throughout the day and just notice what are your, I hate this word, it's so overused. What are your triggers?
Hmm.
Like where are you feeling these pinch points? And then also do the work of actually writing down what does a successful week look like? And if you have a job, a lot of you do have a job.
Right.
What does a successful week look for you work wise? What does a successful week look like for you home wise? Like it's okay to do both. So for me, a successful week would be like, hey, I knew what I was going to make for dinner. I had a scheduled time planned for running errands so that they didn't just bleed into every day. I
Right.
just knew Friday afternoons is my errand running time. That helps me to have a successful week. This is so silly, but like getting gas on a certain day and just topping up the gas tank is really helpful to me. So it's not like, oh my gosh, do I have enough gas to get to town? And
Yeah.
like we live a long ways away from a gas station. So like small things like that. What does a successful week look like? And account for that. And they might be small things, they might be big things. For example, my business one, I realized like, look, there's always going to be people who are more popular than you, who make more money than you, who grow faster than you, who do more than you. Like that is a never ending hamster wheel of
Mm.
just feeling pathetic. Okay.
Hmm.
So I wrote myself a little sticky note to put on my computer and I said, did you pay your mortgage? And did you eat?
Hmm.
This is a successful business. This is your daily bread. And so you need to give thanks. That's what the note says. Thank you, Lord, that I was able to pay my mortgage this month. Thank you, Lord, that I had food to feed my family today.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
a success. That is my daily bread. And thank you for it.
Yeah. I think, as if you're a Christian and you listen to this interview, what's going to happen is like scripture is just going to pop into your mind constantly. With each
Mhm.
bullet point, like a verse is going to pop into your mind. And
Yeah.
there's so many times where you're like, oh, like you are talking about our daily bread. That's what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing
Mm.
Mo talks about is a ceiling.
Yes.
And ladies, let's talk about this. So once you know what a successful week looks like, even if maybe you've slipped a little bit or, maybe it wasn't the perfect showing, if you can get to the end of the day, that's why I have this sticky note on my computer. If you can get to the end of the day and say, look, a successful week looks like this for me. So, for example, Angela, going back to your scheduling thing and like maybe over scheduling, one of my successful week points was creative expression. I'm a creative person. It's the language that I speak. It's the air that I breathe.
Mm.
So some weeks this might look like extra time studying Italian. Some weeks this might look like doing a still life. Some weeks this might look like painting the office and cleaning up some parts of the house or whatever. Like those are all forms of creative expression. The point isn't, did you do all those things all at one time, 7 times a day? Or
Hmm.
at the end of the week, are you able to look back and say, oh man, I was able to really creatively express myself with that cake I made for my daughter's birthday or whatever? Because it gives you perspective. You can get to the end of the week and be lashing yourself because you wanted to make the cake and you wanted to do 5 language lessons and you wanted to organize the office and you want, and.
Hmm.
Or you can get to the end of the week and look and say, look, here's how I was able to creatively express myself. And what kept coming to my mind during Mo's interview was we have to tell ourselves the correct story as homemakers.
Right.
One story could be you get to the end of the week and maybe you haven't gotten the floors cleaned and you didn't finish a math lesson and you're out of groceries or, I mean, insert anything, okay? Any of the
Hmm.
things that would normally really be stressful points for you. And you can say, oh my gosh, this week was a real failure because da 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 da. Or you can get to the end of the week and say, I paid my mortgage. We were able to eat. here's how we were able to creatively express ourselves. I'm so grateful we got to go over to so-and-so's house for dinner on Tuesday.
Right.
The kids were, what's the story that you're running on repeat in your head?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, I didn't get my to-do list done? Or is it, here are these wonderful, incredible things that we were able to do? Because there's always going to be somebody doing more, who has more, who it
Mm-hmm.
seems easier for. Like,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just. So Mo talked about this in the context of having a ceiling. What did you think about that bit?
Well, I loved that because he was he was challenging his friend. I mean, they're friends, and that's what I really enjoyed. And he's like, if I may be so bold, you have no ceiling.
There's
Like
no
that's
there's no amount. Just go, 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 go,
just
go, go, go
go.
forever.
Yeah. In light of, Stephen Bartlett's extremely entrepreneurial and sits on a lot of boards, and, he's a powerhouse. And he's financially set for life. Like there's no reason to keep going. And so his friend was saying, why are you taking on more? You have no ceiling. And Mo's really coming from, in recent years, he's coming from a lot of loss. So he has a lot of perspective on family being most important because he's lost a lot of people recently. And so he's coming from a very deep perspective. And I think this idea of having a ceiling, like, I like it. I mean, just take the pressure off, and then anything that would happen above that ceiling, like, yay, bonus. But what is enough?
What's enough? So he said something that I wrote down. They were specifically talking about money, but I think the same is true for importance, notoriety, popularity, blah, 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 blah. The constant need for more is either based in fear or ego.
Mm.
Oh, oh, sting. Homemakers, think about your home. What you need a bigger one, you need a nicer one, you need more of this, you need a whatever. Like there's a piece of that could be creative expression, functionality, utilitarian thing. Great. But if it's just more and more and more and more and more, and it is a never-ending Ferris wheel of more whatever, I think that's a good time to check. Am I doing this out of fear or ego? I mean, this could be even something as simple as like when people come over, I don't want them to see this. That's fear.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to think less of us if da 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 da. Or I need to be perfectly and completely expressed in my home. It needs to be perfect so I can show it off and show everyone what I can do. That's ego. I need my kids to behave in exactly this way. Why? Well,
so I look
because
like a good mom.
So I'll look like a good mom. Even going back to the scheduling thing. Look, I'm totally guilty of making decisions based on fear or ego, thinking, I want my kids to be able to do this. Yeah. Why? So I look good. Or I want them to be able to do this. Why? Because I don't want other moms to think I suck.
Yeah. Or I don't want them to miss out on XYZ. I don't want to deprive them of whatever, Yes. But, like then, like if we're going to bring kids into it, that mindset, like we're passing that on to them.
Ugh.
That like just lack of ability to set boundaries. And what is one of the most beautiful things you see your children do? One of the most beautiful things as a mom is when you walk in on your child they're just with themselves, whether they're reading or when they're really small, they're creating something, or you find them drawing, or you just find them contemplating a butterfly. Like that speaks to us. And we know that is good. And that's what we want for them. We want our kids out in nature. We want them still. Obviously, I don't mean not not doing, not going, but like, why would that not be good for us as well? Why are we so many of us are focused on creating schedules and a lifestyle that affords that to our children? Like, and then we don't give that gift to ourselves. We're not leading by example. We're manipulating the schedule. We're manipulating it so they have it, but we are not leading by example and giving it to ourselves.
And the second most beautiful thing that you see your kids do is when you're not forcing them to, just being kind to each other. Speaking kindly, speaking patiently with one another. Meanwhile, mom's, get in the car, we're going to be late.
Right. Right.
So I think that kind of goes in line as well. I think the ceiling is important. And look, we're not speaking to there are so many different types of people in the world, and I'm not going to pretend to understand how everybody's mind works.
Yeah.
But I also wrote myself a note, like, I don't need to be the most blank. Fill it in. I don't need to be the most blank. I need to meet my needs and no more. Or you could, of course, again, business, home. I don't need to be the most blank. I need to meet my home's needs and no more. So, like, if you are helping your kids to do the laundry and they have a safe bed to sleep in and they are loved and you're paying your bills and there's food on the table, like, that is a success story. That is a good day. And you don't need more. That is an okay ceiling to have. And if somebody could just put that on a frying pan and hit me over the head with it every day, I would really appreciate it, because how easy we just get distracted and we let a home project or a home goal or insert anything get in the way of a successful day. And the Lord's like, I keep giving you these successful days. I keep giving you these victorious days. And here you are. Not enough. Not enough. Right. I need more. I need more. I need more. So I wrote myself a few other notes, again, kind of applicable for business or for home. I wrote, like, how do my customers, or how do my family members, how do my friends, how do they know I'm grateful for them? Have I prayed and given thanks for them today? Again, accounting the, like, mark what is successful for you, your daily bread, and give thanks for it. The other thing that he talked about, that Mo talked about, which I think is important for the homemaker, is about giving your best to whatever your task is, while maximizing well-being in the process. I have this friend, Nettie, and one of the things I admire so much about her is she'll say no to something good. And it'll be like, why? And she'll be like, because I want to stay home. We want to stay home. We need some time as a family. Zero apologies. And I respect the crap out of that. Because she's maximizing her family's well-being, knowing their needs.
Right.
And look, a lot of times we, as homemakers, we just, we can either get lazy, or we can work ourselves into just pond sludge. Well, and there's nothing left at the end of the day.
Yeah. And he talks about burnout and why it happens. And I think there is this, I wrote down, my well-being needs to be my number one priority. And I think people struggle with that idea that I mean, you can't take care of other people and do your job well if if your cup is spilling out, spent, you're you're raging, you're depressed, you're burned out. You can't do it. And I think
Mm-mm.
there's this real hesitation to say the words, my well-being is my number one priority. It doesn't mean at the sacrifice of other people, at the cost of other people.
Mm-hmm.
I had to come to terms with that. Like it has to be my number one priority because I can't do the things that I love and serve the people that I love if I'm a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I
Mm-hmm.
don't, I mean, I feel like, personally, like we've done so many things to get off the crazy train, but, but we're still like in this world, you're still caught up in it. The intention has to be so strong. And this idea of maintaining that space, taking all these, like for me, taking all these ideas, like they need to stay forefront. We are talking about undoing like habits and thought patterns and that are just so much a part of, for in this case, me, and so much a part of me living in this world. Like this isn't just a like one and done. This is a like a daily acknowledgement that you want to live a different life. This is every
Yeah.
message coming your way is to the contrary.
Mm-hmm. And I think the best thing that you can do, finding yourself in that situation, is to look, shut your phone off for 3 days. I don't care. Give it to your husband and say, don't give it back to me unless there's an emergency. Give yourself space to think about some of these things, to
Mm-hmm.
actually like write them down, process thought. Because my guess is most people are listening to this while they're driving their kids to soccer or making dinner or
Yeah.
vacuuming the floor. You have to actually stop.
Well, I have it written right here. Am I capable to sit with myself? And my pride would go, yes, of course I am. I'm very contemplative. Duh. I have a garden. I'm out there by myself. I go on walks every morning. Don't tell me I can't sit by myself. Like, am I able to sit with myself? Question mark. Constant activity keeps stillness at bay.
Mm-hmm.
And what comes out of this stillness? What comes out of this stillness is all the things we want. It's creativity, it's peace, it's having a moment to truly consider someone else's needs that you care for. When you're like, we're not perfect. We're not perfect mothers. Our children's needs escape us when we are so
Mm-hmm.
mentally occupied with so many other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that, you know, it's the creativity and the goodness comes in the space.
And what needs to naturally come, comes
Mm-hmm.
once you give it space.
So I just, I found it a fascinating conversation. I'll put the link to it in our show notes. And I just felt like I was listening to it and like these just zingers just kept coming across the sound waves, these bullet points that I just felt deserved to be fleshed out on an ongoing basis. So I just thought it would be a great thing to share with the audience. So.
Yeah. Let us know what you think over on Instagram if you listen to it. I would suggest genuinely listening to it with a pen and paper and just sit still. Don't listen to it while you're doing dishes. Like sit.
No, it will get you. You can't. You'll start listening to dishes and you'll think, oh, I have to sit down and write some of this down. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, ladies, have a wonderful, quiet, productive, peaceful, lovely week. And we'll see you back here next Monday. Cheers.